Blood is red. Voodoo is blue. Sugar is sweet. Revenge is sweeter.
I'm passing sentence.
Meet Sugar Hill.
No, please.
Not a place, but a brand new face.
My friends call me Sugar.
The foxiest,
Looking for anything special?
sexiest, deadliest chick in town. The mob took Sugar's man away. And now she's gonna make them pay.
I want them dead.
With a voodoo priestess called Mama Matrace.
I know what you can do. The power you possess.
How strong is your hate?
And Baron Samdi, too.
My particular special. A drink that I'm famous for. The zombie.
This is my domain, a kingdom of the dead.
And an army of undead behind her.
Each death has had something to do with voodoo ritual.
There's nothing that Sugar can't do.
Use it.
The mob has never seen anything like Sugar Hill and her zombie hitmen.
Destination Nightmare, the B-Movie Podcast.
You know, today's movie is Sugar Hill from 1974. This is Destination Nightmare B-Movie Podcast, and I'm Al, and you are...
I am Roddy.
And that was our professional sounding intro to the show, which we never usually do, but... whatever. You know, this movie just turned up on YouTube. I couldn't find it before, and it just all of a sudden it's like it was just there with commercials. Is that where you watched it, or?
I watched. Yeah, I couldn't find it either. I was looking and looking. There was some weird Russian versions, and you know, you go to different websites and like, this looks sketchy. And then I went to watch it this morning, and boop, there it was, right on YouTube. I'm like, okay. I can work with that.
Yeah, it was good. I actually was looking to buy it, but it was like, I don't know, $26. No, I don't think so. You know, for a DVD, you know, no. So yeah, I'd seen this before. God, I'm wondering if we did it on the other show or not. I don't even remember. But at any rate, yeah, cool movie, nice, fun blaxploitation stuff. I actually watched it with my mom. She didn't hate it. She didn't love it. She didn't hate it. You know, she watched it. She sat there and sat through it, and it was like a couple of times she went, "Oh my God, that's horrible!" You know, when the zombies break through the glass or whatever. But yeah, basically a revenge tale starring Marki Bey, who did some movies. She didn't do a lot, but did a few movies. She's very pretty. You know, Robert Quarry, the bad guy.
When I saw the poster for this, I always thought it was
Pam Grier.
Pam Grier for some reason.
Well, when she wears that big afro, she looks like Pam Grier, you know. But she had many hairstyles in this movie. She had like the straight hair, the afro, and a couple of other looks, I guess. But it was weird. I don't know what she did. I guess, was she a fashion photographer? Because there's a couple of shots where she's like posing women.
I don't think they explained that fully in the movie, so I guess maybe that scene got on the cutting room floor. But yeah, I think she was a fashion photographer. You know, made it look like.
Was this movie set in Haiti?
I think it was in Florida. I always get the impression it was like Florida or someplace like that. or Louisiana.
Maybe Louisiana, maybe because I don't remember getting an exact, but I remember they mentioned Haiti. And that's where voodoo comes from, but it could have been Louisiana too, I'm not, because the people had accents. Like Robert Corey was doing a southern accent.
Yeah, they talked about that's the club that the guy owned who was killed.
Yeah.
And then she ended. But yeah, I think from what they were talking about, coming into the French, I don't know, someplace where they buried the slaves who died on ship.
Yeah, it had to have been Louisiana then.
Yeah, because down there they do have sort of a French style, the Cajuns and the whoever else is down there. They have that French patois.
Yeah, well, Louisiana was purchased from the French, right? Back in the 1800s or something like that. The Louisiana Purchase,
Yeah,
I believe it was from France.
Yeah, from France, and I know a lot of they got kicked to Louisiana. I don't know why. I mean, it's kind of a far distance, but so that's why you get that French influence, and then you have the voodoo influence, which I think is still big in parts of Louisiana.
Yeah. Well, French and Haiti is French, or
yeah.
So there's that going on, but then that moved to Louisiana, and
yeah.
And they dropped a lot of N-bombs in this movie too.
Oh, kidding. No kidding. Well, that was a different time when people were far less PC, and yeah, you could really curse up a storm.
Oh, and they sure did. Yeah, it was like I counted at least 6 of them in the first half hour. I think they cooled off after that, but it was like, okay, all right, okay, yeah. And from all colors too. It's not just black on black, but it was like, okay, whatever, I guess it adds to the evilness of the bad people,
But the first time I heard Robert Corey say it, I think he was the first one to say it. I'm not sure, but it's like, oh.
It was like, oh, okay, I knew about it already because I watched this before, but I forgot that everybody else was on the act. I'm like, okay, I guess it was going to have a hard time playing on TV these days, but, you could always get it on video, or YouTube didn't edit it, so, that's the way that goes. But anyway, so at the beginning, there's like a club owner, and I forgot what his name was, but Marki Bey of Sugar Hill is his girlfriend, and, they're just sitting in the club, and, they're getting kind of romantic or whatever, and then like a gang shows up of, I guess it's Morgan's gang, it's Robert Corey's gang, right? And they're bugging him about selling the club.
Yeah, apparently, you get the impression that some guy is like a big time crook in the area, and he's got his fingers in a lot of businesses, and he wants to buy the club, because that makes money. Boyfriend of Sugar Hill, or fiance, she's going to marry him. They start shoving each other, and then he kicks him out of the club, and then he and Marki Bey are talking, and he's like, all right, well, I got a meeting to go to. And he goes out in the parking lot, and these guys, and they're wearing stockings on them.
I know.
They're all dressed weird and flamboyantly and stuff. So they beat him to death. And she gets all PO'd and angry, and she vows vengeance. So she goes to her, I think it's her grandmother, or somebody who's supposedly in her.
That actress is? She was the mother. She was Mother Jefferson.
Yeah. I kept expecting to say to act like. Apparently, she was a good actress on Broadway and stuff.
Yeah.
But she goes down to her. She's a voodoo queen or a witch or whatever. So, she's like, well, you're a non-believer and I'm old. And they're in some ancestral house that belongs in Sugar Hill's family, supposedly. And so she agrees to help Sugar Hill get revenge. And she takes her out to the back, which I guess is the bayou full of crocodile. You see alligators and snakes and all sorts of stuff. And they go to this graveyard, and Brother Jefferson calls up Baron
Samedi,
I think.
Samedi, yeah.
Comes up, and he's got like a silk top hat and like a tailed tuxedo coat and a sash, and he's got like bones hanging from his ears and stuff. And he's all laughing and says, "What will you give me for revenge?" He says, "Oh, I'll give you
her soul."
My soul. And he goes, "Oh, what do I want with your soul?" He goes, "We'll worry about the price later."
Yeah, Baron Samedi is portrayed by Don Pedro Colley is his name. He was in a bunch of things, but he was also in Beneath the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, he played one of the guys underneath.
Yeah. And his style reminds me of back in the old days. Remember the Uncola, the guy Jeffrey Holder who used to do the
Uncola, very broad and flamboyant, and his eyes are always like bugging out, and he's always like and stuff.
He's got like gold teeth too, or something.
He gives her. He goes to the graveyard and he says, "Rise, my masters and slaves, rise and do my bidding." So all these zombies come up, and they all have, instead of regular eyes, they all have like they look like silver or something for eyes, and they're all covered in cobwebs, and
they're cool looking.
Yeah, they are cool looking. So they
and they're all black too. It turns out they're slaves, as we find out later.
You find out later in the movie that they were the slaves who died on the voyage over.
Yeah.
And were buried in like unhallowed ground in the swamp. So then the movie switches and you see this white guy. He's like a shipping clerk.
Yeah, he's like a dock worker guy, and he's making the people who are looking for work pay for their job or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then you see you see Baron Zumba watching him as the guy.
Baron Samedi.
The guy, collecting money from the people. He slaps one guy because the guy tries to stand up to him. And then he's walking into the big
warehouse. Warehouse, whatever,
counting his money. And you hear like manacle chains behind him, and then suddenly he turns around. He turns around. He gets confronted by the zombies, and no. And then the scene cuts, and you see the guy photographing a body under a sheet.
And a detective comes in.
Yeah, and he's like, what's going on, Chief? He says, well, we think we have, and he names one of Morgan's men. He goes, you think? He goes, yeah. So the guy lifts up the thing. You don't see what's under the covering. The guy goes, ooh. He makes a face. And then another cop comes over and says, we found something, Chief. So they go into the warehouse, and there on like a bag of seed, you find the guy's head. So obviously the zombies killed him and cut his head off.
Right. So then, then the police start getting involved, and then the detective ends up talking to a professor or something, and he goes, yeah, well, these are chains from, like we said before, an old slave ship or whatever. These are like from the 1800s or whatever. I don't know how the hell these, And then the movie pretty much turns into like getting revenge on everybody. It's like it becomes Dr. Vibes in a way, you know what I mean? It's like, that guy gets killed. What was the next guy? They take him out. The next guy is extorting like some other you meet Robert Quarry, and you see his gang of guys, and they're like, what happened to the first guy that got killed, and he goes, I don't know, but we got to be careful. And he's like, well, we need to buy that. We need to get that club. So you got to do what you got to do, And then one of the bad guys, one of Robert Corey's bad guys, is Charles Robinson, who I believe was in Night Court. Remember?
Yeah, he played the court officer.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And everybody here is young and thin.
Yeah. This is 1974, so. So then one of the other henchmen, right, is going. He's browbeating some farmer.
So then the zombie king pulls up.
Baron Samedi.
I can't remember his name, Zemedy. So he comes up in a taxi and he says, well, Morgan wants to see you. So the guy gets in the cab and he drives him out into the swamp and says, where's Morgan? He says, he's over that way with some people. So the guy's walking back, and Zemedy is leading the way, and then he suddenly stops at an abandoned building. He goes, he's in there. So the henchman goes in, and he goes, hey, this looks suspicious. So he pulls out his gun, he turns around to talk to Zemedy, and then you see him just like a scarecrow with Zemedy's tails on it, tuxedo clothes on it. So then he walks in. No, then the zombies come up and they grab him and drag him in, and
she shows up too in her Pam Grier wig.
Yes, yeah, she's and then she's sitting on the top of a pig pen, and apparently the pigs haven't been fed for a week. So they, she tells him that she's getting revenge, and the guy's, no, I get your message. I'll tell Morgan. We understand. So, she says, I don't care about that. You're going to die. So she has the zombies throw the guy into the pig pen, who most people may not know. Pigs are omnivorous, so they will eat meat.
Oh, they will eat a person. I didn't know that.
Eat a person. So they start chomping on them, and you hear screams and stuff. And it goes back to Quarry again. Oh no, I think it goes back to the
detective.
And somewhere along the way, you find out that detective and Marki Bey used to date.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and he's like, trying to hit on her now that her boyfriend's gone or whatever. And then at some point around there, Quarry calls her into his office and is trying to buy the club from her, and she's kind of willing to do it for a price, and she kind of says, yeah, send me a contract and I'll take a look at it, and blah 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 or whatever, so then she leaves, and that's when she gets into the fight with Corey's girlfriend.
They have verbal, and then there's a scene. I don't know. I think the girl came into the club, and she's like, Marki Bey's like, what are you doing here? I'm waiting. Oh no, the girl says, what are you doing here? So I'm waiting for Robert Quarry. She says, well, he's not coming. I'm here. So they start getting into a cat fight. They're going around, and the bartender, he's just standing there watching them.
He's enjoying it.
Then Marki Bey kicks the ass of the Robert Quarry's girlfriend, and then the bartender just picks up, he gives her a bucket of ice, and Marki Bey throws the ice on her. It was a weird thing, but you knew they had to get into it at some point, because every time she was seeing Morgan, the girl was dropping N-bombs about her.
She said, I'm not going to wait on that, whatever.
That N-bomb.
Oh, she called it a B-bomb too, a couple of times. That yeah, it was pretty. yeah. Anyway.
What did the cops find? I don't remember if the cops found the guy who was killed by pigs.
No, they don't. But then like something happens with the contract where Quarry and Charles Robinson come to visit her. And she wants more money, I think.
Yeah, she's doing the photo shoot. And I think there's another henchman who's killed somewhere along the way before that.
Well, I know the guy who was delivering the 10 grand.
Because that's what she asked. She asked for 10 grand under the table.
Oh, yeah. Before that, there was a guy in the pool hall.
Yeah, that's it. And she says, I'm here because, you're hot and foxy. And the guy's like, oh, I see. So, you black women can't stay away from the white guys. Which the first time I heard that. So she gets him back to her place, and she has a whole voodoo thing set up. And
she kind of makes him stab himself, right?
Doll in the center of the table, and when the doll goes on fire, he's going to kill himself. So he's like pleading, and he can't go. And there's zombies and Baron Zabimbi.
Samedi.
He's there. And so the guy's like, no, I can't. I won't. I refuse to do it. So the doll goes on fire, and he picks up this jeweled knife, and he ends up killing himself.
Right, and then after that, that's when, like, the Corey's like, they're all like, hey, we lost another guy. What the hell are we gonna do? We're getting
to talk at me, and he's not sure if it's her, but she acts real cool, real suave. And in the meantime, the black ex-boyfriend cop is looking around. He's getting suspicious about her, and then he goes to the voodoo guy, the voodoo expert.
Yeah, he goes and sees him a couple times.
Yeah, he went to the Voodoo Museum.
Yeah, right.
So they're looking and he's asking questions and finding out. And he goes to his police chief boss. The guy's like, well, that's crazy, but if you're going to investigate this side of it, do it on the side so we both don't look crazy. And he keeps getting close. And he is it Bemby? Is it what's the
Samedi.
Samedi. I'm going to call him Xanadu because that's the one.
Call him Xanadu, yeah.
So he's meeting with Mother Jefferson and Marki Bey. He's like, you like this cop because he's getting close. And she says, yes, I like this cop, and I want him. It says, we can kill him. She says, no, I just want him taken out of action. She says, it'd be easier to kill him. She says, no, just take him out of action. So you see him walking downstairs lighting a cigarette, and Baron Xanadu stabs a voodoo doll in the knee, and the boyfriend cop falls down the stairs and breaks his leg. And he's, then Marki Bey visits him in the hospital. She says, oh, you have to take care of yourself. Take it easy. And he's like, I suspect you of this going on. She says, oh, little old me, what would I know about all that stuff? So then they get to the henchman named Fabulous, was played by
that's Charles Robinson from Night Court. Yeah. Fabulous.
And he goes. She makes she pays off a lady in a massage parlor.
No, before that, before he gets it, it's the one guy. Remember, they cut a deal, and she wanted 10 grand, and so he goes, okay, fine. So he sends a guy to give her the 10 grand, and he shows up where she tells him to, at her house or whatever, and then he gets accosted by the zombies, and she's there, and she goes like, well, I don't want your money, but I'm gonna put you in this coffin full of snakes or whatever, and you can take the money with you or whatever. So that's how they kill that guy off. Yeah, they didn't show it. They just showed him going in there, and she says, yeah, you can keep your money. I don't want it, and you throw it in there or whatever. So, it's like, I think at this point, Robert Quarry, Morgan, I think was his name. He's only down to like Charles Robinson or something. I mean, no, and actually they don't bury him, and we find that out later, but at any rate, they don't get buried. Remember that. Yeah,
yes, that's right. We find out what happens to them ultimately. Later. So that's right. So he's with Charles Robinson, and said, "You got to find out. It's got to be somebody from out of town, because otherwise I would hear about who's trying to muscle in. So
Yeah.
you want me to go off and find out?" And he goes, "No, you stay close to me like a second skin." So then Marki Bey's making a deal with a massage lady to play a practical joke, and Blandy's like, "I don't know." He says, "Well, will 100, cover it?" She goes, "How about 120?" Okay, So then Robinson goes to the massage parlor, and Baron Xanadu's there. He's like, "Oh, where's Mitzi?" And he's like, "Oh, she took the day off, but she had a special a woman take her place, Frenchie." So
Yeah, right.
goes in, he's all undressed, and then see Sugar Hill come in. She starts rubbing him and massaging him, and he doesn't even look at her. And she's like, "How about we do something, since it's quiet here, we do something special with some of my friends." He's like, "Oh, okay, And then he's laying there and says, "Oh, come on, I'm getting lonely here," because Marki Bey sort of steps to the side, and she closed the door, and then he's laying there waiting, and then suddenly
a bunch of hands.
The zombie hands come and start scratching him and stuff. He goes, "Wow, your hands are cold. Oh, when that hurts." Hey, he turns around, there's all these zombie ladies there, and he's like screaming, and they strangle him to death. Then Robert Quarry, he gets all pissed off, and Marki Bey then calls him and says, "I'm not selling the club." He's all like, he gets all, "I'm gonna kill that bitch." So he gets in his car with his girlfriend, and they drive out to her old mansion that was in her family, and he sees Marki Bey in the window. So he gets out. He says, "You coming with me?" And the girl, it's like, "No, I'm staying in the car." So he starts going through the house looking for Marki Bey, and he comes upon the zombies. And then he starts like trying to shoot at them, and nothing happens. And then he starts running through the woods and through the swamp, and everywhere he turns, a zombie seems to pop up. Meanwhile, the girl in the car, she's getting all nervous waiting, and suddenly it's surrounded by zombies, and they're slapping on the window and pushing in the car. It gets the back then.
Yeah, that's when they break the window,
the
right?
Car windows had a little side window vent.
Yeah, I had those. Yeah.
And so one of them, because a lot of times you could like easily take a knife or something, slip up, and because the latch just sort of folded over, you could slip the latch up. And
I did that a few times myself.
She's screaming, and then one of them breaks the window, and they grab her, and then it switches back to Robert Quarry running through the swamp, trying to escape.
No, but before Quarry goes into the swamp, remember, he's running through the house, and the zombies are chasing him. He goes into a room, and sitting there are, you tell us,
the dead henchman. You see the guy who lost his head? He's got his head attached. There's all of his henchmen were killed, and they're all like looking at him, and he gets freaked out, and he's like, ugh! And so he's again. Then he starts running through the swamp, and he ends up trying to escape, and he falls into quicksand.
Yeah.
Which is funny because back then, so many people in almost every movie somebody fell into quicksand.
Yeah, I know. Mummies and stuff. Everybody did. Yeah. Even in Blazing Saddles, they fell into quicksand.
He's screaming and yelling and trying to help me, save me, and he goes under. And then you have Baron Zombie,
Sugar Hill,
and Mother Jefferson.
Mother Jefferson, yeah.
And then the zombies come in and bring the girl, Robert Quarry's girlfriend, in the car, and he goes, the Baron Xanadu turns to Marki Bey and goes, here we've done it. We've killed all the bad guys. You've had your revenge. Now here's a gift for you. And he gives her gives her a cane with a silver zombie head on it and ruby eyes. And he goes, and as for my gift, and he looks at the Robert Quarry's girlfriend, and she's all squirming, no, no, no. So the zombies bring her up to him, and he lifts her up and carries her away, and then he descends into the earth, and
then the last shot is just like Sugar Hill and Mother Jefferson just standing in the swamp, and then they that's it.
And then
credits.
You expected something more gruesome, I expected a zombie, because he was surrounded by zombies. I expected him to rip him apart or do something, but he just drowned in the quicksand, which was kind of.
Yeah, it was a PG movie, so I guess the bad language didn't fall in. Nowadays, this would be rated XXX or something just for language.
You'd have to see it under cover of Police Guard or something. It shows you how much society has changed and what you can say and can't say and stuff. But I mean, I guess it's a black exploitation movie, so they went. I guess it's over the top just to show you how bad these guys really are.
Yeah, and in all the blaxploitation movies, the language was pretty rough. But most of them were rated R. This one was PG, which was interesting because, I guess they wanted kids to see this. I don't know.
I guess. It was a fun movie, though. I mean, It started right off. Long, boring story. The girl didn't get with the guy. She didn't get with the police chief. Because after he was sidelined from a broken leg, you didn't see him again.
Yeah, that's right. You didn't see him. That was it for him in the movie. Yeah, the police were out of the picture. It was just her getting revenge or whatever. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
And I was surprised by the amount of afros. I forgot how ubiquitous they were. But that was the style of hair back then for black people. Just that big giant afro.
Very Afrocentric in the 70s. Very much so, yeah. I remember. You do too. So, yeah. Well, Pam Grier was always rocking a big old afro, I think that this movie should have been for Pam Grier. Marki Bey's fantastic. I'm glad she was Sugar Hill, but I always feel like this was for Pam Grier, and then maybe she was doing something else and couldn't do it, because she has that feel to her, Marki does.
Or didn't offer enough money, or who knows. Yeah, but it did. If you look at the poster, it does almost look like Grier, not Marki Bey. Marki post. Who knows? But Marki Bey was real good in this.
She's fantastic. She's beautiful, and she's she does all the. I saw her in. She was in another movie called The Roommates, which was around this time. 4 young women living together, and they're all their shenanigans or whatever, and fun stuff or whatever, but I wish she had done more. She was always a presence. She had a presence to her, look to her that was awesome, Marki Bey. But Pam Grier got most of the she got most of the movies.
Yeah, exactly.
And she was awesome too, so I'm not gonna.
She's a good actress too.
Yeah, and a good looker too, as well. Yeah. So this is a fun movie. This is one of I guess this was not. Was this towards the end of AIP? I'm not sure. This was towards the beginning of the end of AIP. I think they lasted a few more years, but this was some of the last horror stuff. I'm sure they did a few more. I can't think of any of them off the top of my head right now, but they started getting into action movies too. Horror was by 74 they were still making horror movies, but when Star Wars came out, that was pretty much the end of it. In certain ways, they still make them. It wasn't until I shouldn't say that. Halloween came around after that, and Friday the 13th, and that kind of became real popular. I shouldn't say that, but the classic horror. I consider this, even as a blaxploitation movie, kind of in the classic horror vein, with the monsters and all that,
So yeah, because usually like when like Friday the 13th and those sort of slasher or dead teenager
Halloween
movies, they reveled in how people were killed rather than it became more part of the visual storytelling than just, this guy got his head cut off and this person got eaten by snakes or pigs or whatever. But with the slasher movies, you actually saw like their heads falling off and swords coming or machetes coming through their chests and stuff. So
this was pretty tame. It wasn't. It had effects, but I wouldn't call this like especially. This wasn't like a Dawn of the Dead, gore fest, which it could have been.
Yeah, they could have reveled in gore, but they didn't. It was more it was a revenge story.
And these were the old-fashioned voodoo zombies. These weren't like they didn't have like, they weren't eating human flesh that I could see, and I was thinking in this movie, and they weren't like dripping with guts and and all that. They had the bug eyes, and the cobwebs.
Yeah, silver bug eyes. Yeah, they were just the undead raised to do the bidding of the voodoo priest.
It's kind of like remember that old movie White Zombie with Bella?
Yeah.
And even more so, like I Walked with the Zombie, that Val Lewton one from the 40s. They look kind of like that.
Yeah, and that's how I remember. That's what zombies were before Dawn of the Dead. And when like Dawn of the Dead, suddenly zombies were cannibals, and it's like, where did this come from? And then the zombies got super fast, and started like 28 days later and stuff. And it's like they kind of changed it. It's like when they changed the vampires from sort of spooky, spooky, who seem to have like hypnotic power, to these like angst-ridden teenagers.
Oh, that's the worst. That's the absolute worst. But it was popular, so
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the last Dracula movie that I remember being kind of faithful. Maybe I'm wrong on this. Was the Coppola's Dracula, and even that was a little bit over the top. Did you ever see Francis Coppola's Dracula?
And I think they was trying to be more faithful to the book, because apparently in the book, I've only read parts of it, as Dracula is in England and he starts sucking blood and killing people and stuff, he kind of gets younger and rejuvenated and he goes after Mina, and he focuses on it. The other women, he just sucks them dry and brutalizes them and stuff. But with like Mina, he's in love, so he tries to court her in a way. So yeah, much different than the vampires of today.
Yeah, and there was another movie made around this time. It was called Death Dream. I guess I wouldn't call him a zombie, but it looked like a zombie. It was about a family whose son was at the war, and they came to their door and told them, "Hey, sorry to tell you, but your son died in action." And they're all distraught. The family was, and the mother's like, "Oh, I wish he could come back the way he was. Oh, I wish he would come back." And then all of a sudden, it's like the son comes back, and they're like, "Oh, it was a mistake. You're back." But he kind of comes back, and he's really like kind of quiet and creepy, and then he starts kind of deteriorating a little bit. But instead of the zombie bit, he was like almost like a vampire. Like he needed human blood to revive himself. It's actually a good movie, and what's interesting about it was it was directed by Bob Clark, who did stuff like Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, Black Christmas, and then he did A Christmas Story. He was an interesting director, and he did Porky's. So he was doing like Christmas movies, he was doing teen comedies, and he was doing like horror movies. He was an interesting director. He passed away in a car crash a few years ago, but he was an interesting guy. But that was another one which was kind of when the guy comes back, and he starts deteriorating. He kind of is zombie looking, but he's more vampire too. You know, it's weird. They always mix the and Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. Also, it was in '73, and it was also about. It was kind of a zombie movie too, because it was a dead guy that these kids were doing some supernatural shenanigans, and they're trying to revive this they dig up a guy Orville and they revive him, and it's kind of a zombie thing too, which was from around this era. But Orville was more of like a kind of a Romero, whereas this one is more traditional voodoo.
Right.
You know.
Right.
It was an interesting take, and the guy who directed this movie, his name is Paul Maslansky. I believe he was involved with an old 60s Christopher Lee movie called Castle of the Living Dead. Was it him, or was it...
Mm-hmm.
He was involved with some 60s, or was it a Barbara Steele movie? I can't remember right now, but I remember... Let me look him up right now, because when I saw that name today, I was like, oh, that guy was involved with that Christopher Lee movie, Castle of the Living Dead, and that's a great movie, too, about a troupe of performers in the 1700s who end up in a castle of a taxidermist, and it's just a very, and he's got all these animals, you know, and then he actually wants to taxiderm humans too, you know what I mean? So it was like, let me type in Paul Maslansky here. What's that?
Did we watch that? Did we watch that movie, Castle of the Living Dead? It sounds familiar.
I don't think we did. Let me see, okay. Paul Maslansky. We could. It's a cool movie. I know we did it on the other show. Oh, he was also involved. That's right. He was, believe it or not, he was also involved with the Police Academy movies.
Wow.
He did. His first production credit was Castle of the Living Dead. He also did Race with the Devil, which is a movie, Damnation Alley, which I never saw, and what was the other one? The Villain Love Child, which I've never seen. Oh, he did a bunch of movies. He was involved with Deathline, which is kind of a zombie movie too, about people living underground. They were like people that died in in some kind of a train thing, but some of them lived and it became zombies. God, he had quite the career. Wow, look at that. A lot of Police Academy movies, Ski Patrol. Oh wow. Anyway, what I remember him from was Castle of the Living Dead. So there you go, Paul Maslansky. He was involved with this, with Sugar Hill. So yeah, cool stuff. We should do some more blaxploitation in the future, you know.
They're fun because they're real quick. They get right to the story. There's no, trying to be artistic or creative. They're
violent and Pam Grier in most of them. That's always a good thing. And yeah, it's all good stuff or whatever. So yeah, I don't think we did Castle. I think I might have done it on Slow Robot, but I'm not sure. But if you want to find it, let's do it. I'm always in for a good Christopher Lee movie. You know, they're always fun. I had Sugar Hill on the background, the TV, just to refresh my memory. And as soon as it was over, they're playing Sheba Baby with Pam Grier. So there you go. You know. Oh man, good stuff. Yeah, blaxploitation was fun. It was like blaxploitation, and then around the same time, Bruce Lee died, and then it became Kung Fu. Yeah. So then Kung Fu and blaxploitation, Black Belt Jones, you know, all the genres started melding together, you know.
I was looking for like a movie to watch about a couple of days ago, and I came upon Dr. Phibes Rises Again.
Did you like Phibes Rise Again? Did you think it was...
It had some of the elements in the movie were cool and interesting, and like they go back to Egypt and stuff, but it just lacked the the charm. The original movie, it just seemed like, hey, let's cash in and and I think the director and the writer had a spat of what the movie was supposed to be like, and it just didn't quite meld like the first one. You know,
it looked like it was a bigger budget.
Yeah, that doesn't always make it for a better movie, though. You know, not quite not as cohesive. But there were some cool scenes in it. Like there was one scene where they're in Egypt and they're digging around a temple and there's skeletons around, and Robert Quarry's yelling at the archaeologists, and so they all go out of the chamber, and then one of the sort of skeletal-like people opens his eyes, and you see it's Five, and he had taken off his makeup, and he was just sort of spying on them. And it was cool how they did it, because you didn't notice it right away. But, yeah, Fives is all like messed up and stuff. That was cool. It had some really interesting effects. But other things were like, that doesn't make any sense. It just like they took some of the elements of Fives and tried to run with it rather than sitting down and making a better story. Right. And it seemed more surface and less.
Yeah, the actress who was his assistant in Fives Rise Again, she's on Facebook, Valley Kemp. She's really nice. Yeah, she paints and stuff. She's really cool. Yeah. The thing about Quarry is he hit big with Count Yorga, and then he did a thing called The Death Master, and then there was a problem with AIP, and he did it independently, and the AIP said, hey, you're under contract, and they bought it, and then they put it out, and then they did another Dr. Fives movie, and then they were trying to set him up to be the next horror star, but there was I don't know the exact story, but apparently there was like Vincent Price caught wind of the fact that AIP was thinking about making him the next big horror star, and they did 2 movies, him and Price. They did Dr. Fives, and they did Madhouse. And apparently there was some kind of a feud between the two of them. I don't know how intense it was, but there was something there, and it was fueled by a production guy. I don't know if his name was Hayward or something like that, but there's a story in there, about what happened. And then Corey, just kind of went and did TV, I guess, after that, and he did a few more features. His career kind of went up and down after that, But yeah, Madhouse, which we watched, that was Quarry and Price also,
Right.
Remember, Quarry was the former adult movie producer. He always played a good jerk.
He seemed suave, but you knew underneath there was some oily lizard-like character that's like, ooh, I don't trust this guy.
Yes, he was on a game show. Yeah, and I caught it by accident, too. It was like I was watching TV on the computer, and this game show was on, and I'm like, I'm not paying attention to it. I look up and I go, oh, okay. And so I'm just watching the computer, and all of a sudden I hear, oh, okay, Robert, or what's the answer? And I go, Robert, and I look at the guy, and I hear his voice, and all of a sudden the light blinked on my head, and I went, that's Robert Quarry. So I was able to rewind the TV to the beginning of the show and record it all. Wow. And yeah, it's him, and he didn't even mention his film career. He was just he was talking about that he wrote a cookbook. That was his claim to fame in the show. He wrote a cookbook. It had to have been in the early '80s. So yeah, he was. And he started after that. He started doing movies again, but Fred Olen Ray movies, which were like low budget, kind of like. Fred Olen Ray was doing like almost kind of like homages to the old movies. But they were gory and cheap and cool, but they were also not as good. But they had their moments, There was they did TNA movies, and he would get old movie stars from the Me movies, and they were fun. Fred Olen Ray is cool. I like Fred Olen Ray, but Corey did a few with him, and then he just passed away. I think he had a heart condition or something, so he never would. But he had the potential in the early '70s. With the Yorga movies and Madhouse and and this to actually become a big horror star. It just never happened for him, Well, like I said, what we talked about before, the genre was, it wasn't as big. Kung Fu became big, and Sugar Hill was a combination of horror and blaxploitation. You know what I mean? So everything was kind of like changing, and Corey was really good in the Yorga movies, and he was really good in the Death Master. He kind of plays the same character, but he was pretty evil. He had an evil laugh, and he was very. He was good. He was very good.
There were a couple of blaxploitation movies that were also horror movies early on. I can remember one where the kids break into like a funeral home or something.
Mm.
Oh, I can't remember what it was. But again, it was like those anthology movies that like Hammer used to make.
The one that I remember was the one that we did on Slow Robot, which is a later one, with Tales from the Hood.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Which is a combination of Tales from the Crypt and, that was with Clarence Williams III in it. Well, you know what? Oh, I just drew a blank. Now I remember Blacula, man.
Yeah, Blacula, which I think was before these two movies. This
it
movie,
was.
And also by AIP.
And then there was also Blackenstein.
I didn't see I didn't know there was a Blackenstein. I'll have to
we'll watch
it.
It's horrible. We'll watch it in the future.
Yeah, Blacula was great.
There was two Blaculas. It was Blacula and Scream Blacula Scream.
The guy who played Blacula.
William Marshall.
Yeah, he was like a Shakespearean
yes.
actor. He had just resonant voice, and he was very commanding as Blacula. Very and a slightly different take on it. But yeah, Blacula and Scream Blacula Scream.
Yeah, Scream Blacula Scream had Pam Grier in it too. But
I don't remember that.
Yeah, but with all of these like Blacula fives and all that, the first one was always better than the sequel. The second Doctor Fives is almost like the same movie as the first one, but set in a different time. It was interesting. It was like, am I watching the same movie again with different actors? Like, kind of, yeah, but it was still good. But the first one was always the better one because it was the more original one or whatever.
The only thing that you might say the sequel is as good would be Alien and Aliens.
Well, Empire Strikes Back.
Okay, you got me there. Yeah, because The Empire Strikes Back was much better than Star Wars.
And I think it was better than the last one too. The third one. But I mean that's just my opinion, whatever. But
the only problem is, as with a lot of middle parts in the trilogy, they don't end the movie where because that's when they freeze Han Solo.
Yeah.
And then it sort of ends there. So you're like, well, you have to make a third movie so we can see what happened.
Exactly.
It's not like they end it, but they escape, and it kind of feels like a complete movie.
There's a lot of stuff, and Luke finds out that he's Darth Vader's his father in that one, and he gets his hand cut off. There's a lot of stuff that happened in that second movie, but
it was much better. But Aliens, the first one, was more kind of like a science fiction horror movie,
action movie too.
Well, the second one was more action.
The second one I'm talking about. The first one was like a horror movie in space, yeah.
Second, Aliens was an action movie with the Marines coming in and doing the shootout and stuff. So I think that's why they both are. And the second one is better than the first because it's a different kind of movie. It didn't try to repeat the success of Alien.
No.
It sort of built off it and created a different style of movie.
Well, two different directors: Ridley Scott, the first one, and James Cameron, the second one.
Yeah.
Bride of Frankenstein is considered to be a better movie than Frankenstein.
If they did Fives and then Fives Rises Again, if they had a different director, it probably would have been a much better movie because he would have had a different take on the character and have him do different things.
Bride of Frankenstein is considered to be a better movie than Frankenstein. It's a better made movie, and it's
better
more
made.
And it's got a humor in it, and it's got better effects in it, and it's got more music in it. But I mean, that's kind of like people love the first one, but in the view of a lot of reviewers and whatever, Bride is more of an interesting movie. In a lot of ways it is. But the first one is the original one,
Yeah. You know what I noticed about a lot of the Universal monsters, which is probably why they're so people really, really love them even today. Most of the monsters are more the victims than they become monsters because they've been victimized by people. You know, like Frankenstein is hounded by the people. Maybe Dracula is not, because Dracula is a protagonist. The Hunchback, the Creature of the Black, you know, they're more sympathetic than like some of the other monsters, where it's just pure evil. We got to get rid of them. You know, there was another of emotion added to the movie.
Yeah, they're definitely more sympathetic than Freddy Krueger, who was a child molester.
Yeah, and it was burnt. Yeah, you don't really care what the hell happens to him.
Yeah, it was just, that was pure sadism or whatever, you know what I mean? He went on forever. You know, I mean, Robert Englund's good, but, you know, whatever. I mean, you know, I saw the first one, that was it. But yeah, they had a sympathy. The Wolfman, it wasn't his fault he got bit by a wolf, you know, it was, you know, I mean, yeah, sure.
Even he was in love with this princess, and he got tortured and buried alive and stuff.
Yeah, the Mummy, yeah, right.
You know, he wasn't necessarily, and he was, there was something, an extra level added to the monsters, rather than, this is the monster that's going to kill everybody, that's it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, even like stuff like Godzilla, he was revived by radioactivity or something like that. He was just sleeping underwater. He was just what?
Leave me alone.
So, you know, some of and you know, that's another one that the original in a way is better than all the sequels, but some of the sequels are fun in different ways to the Godzilla movies, you know. But the original itself is a completely different movie.
There was what's the one, Monster Island, I think it is.
Yeah.
The one where you have Godzilla Jr.
Yeah.
I always thought, but you know, the monster's trying to shoot out the radioactive ray from his mouth, and he comes out with like a smoke ring, and then you see Godzilla stamp on his tail, and they go.
Yeah. At the time, I didn't really like those movies too much. I've grown to enjoy them, but yeah, not so much. But yeah, cool, man. So yeah, we'll do Castle of the Living Dead next. That should be fun. I haven't seen that in a few years. I saw that as a kid, and it always had an effect on me. So that's an interesting one. Donald Sutherland plays 2 roles in that. So, all right, well, that's it for today. Sugar Hill, cool movie. It's on YouTube. Excellent. Check it out. You know, fun stuff.
Be prepared. You're younger than 50. Actually, yeah, all right, we'll say 50. If you're younger than 50, be prepared for a lot of language differences than what you hear today.
Yeah, a little rougher language, but you know, enjoy the movie. It's fun, and yeah, we'll be back in a couple of weeks with the Castle of the Living Dead. So yeah, but in the meantime, and we'll do that again. And in the meantime, we ask you out in listener land to watch
more B-movies.
You shall utter no word without the permission of Basra. Her heart is weakening. It has to be replaced with a new one. This very night.
The Blood Drinkers. Vampires preying on the innocent. In the dark of night, they attack to refresh themselves with the warm blood of the living, leaving behind them corpse after corpse, with no one safe from their deadly fangs. These are the Blood Drinkers.
And Edgar Allan Poe's immortal classic of horror and hate. The Black Cat. Is it real? Is it alive? For unimaginable shock scenes, see The Black Cat. from the pen of Edgar Allan Poe.
Can the world heavyweight boxing champion match his fists against the lethal masters of the martial arts? Bamboo gods and iron men. From Harlem to Hong Kong and across the China Sea, they fear the name, the fame, and the fury of Black Cal Jefferson, the champ. He matched a left hook and a right cross against the skills of the Kung Fu killers and hit them right where they live, in the land of bamboo gods and iron men, where the naked fist is deadlier than a bullet. Black Cal Jefferson, he carved a path of vengeance and violence across the land of bamboo gods and iron men. From American International, rated R, under 17, not admitted without parent.